Good morning. We'll just wait for everybody to find their seats. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good to see you here in the room. Good morning to see lots of folks online here too this morning. Glad just for you to join worship, however is best for you and your family in this moment we live in right now. If you are watching online, I always encourage people to share the feed. That's a really easy way to let people know that this is an important part of your life and that what we do here is worth sharing. So if you're watching online, feel free to share the feed on your timeline. You can also write prayer requests into the feed here in the comments. Just write other comments, greetings to each other, reflections on worship or the sermon, things you hate about the church. No, you don't write that. Just whatever you feel like writing in there. Greet each other. Use that space for those ways. And if you're here in the room, you want to share prayer requests, you can text me. My number's in the bulletin. Actually, I think if you get the bulletin online too. Real quick, speaking of the bulletin, I wanted to say that I changed the last hymn. So the last hymn that is in the bulletin is not the correct one. Instead, there's a sheet on the back table back there. I love to tell the story will be the last hymn. So if you didn't already get that off of the table back there, you'll need to grab one of the loose pieces of paper that is the song I Love to Tell the Story. And if you're watching at home online, you probably won't even notice much different unless you're looking at the bulletin. Joe will have the words up there for you to see just fine. And if you're in the room, you can actually look at the words on the screen too. But it's a familiar song. And we picked out I Love to Tell the Story for our final hymn because Ben isn't here this morning. Ben has had a really, really rough week with sickness, and he may even be watching right now, but he did one of those rapid COVID tests yesterday, and it came back positive. So that sort of explains the miserable experience he's had all week long. He's still feeling really, really down, so even if it wasn't COVID, I'm not sure he'd be able to be here this morning. But he's out today, and just, again, it reminds us of the importance of when we're here together, and we're in places with people to wear masks and to try to do things to take care of ourselves. I believe Ben maybe even been just starting to show symptoms last Sunday when he's here, having no idea that it was COVID. So that's why we wear masks around each other, because even though he's been vaccinated and quite careful, he still had it. So important. Yeah, we never know. So let's check in some comments here, then I'll do some announcements. Stacy was the first one on this morning. And then the Elschlagers, and Brian Cole, good to see you on this morning. Jean Marie, good morning to you. She says good morning to church family. Diane Cannon, good morning to you. And Jamie Todd, the Todd family down the street. I always feel like I want to look that way because that's where they live. Good morning, Susie Denise. Good morning, the Spang family. Homebound but joining to praise the Lord. Love it. Amy McBride, good morning to you. And some nice thoughts to Ben if he's watching. You can read those, Ben. If not, then you can check it out later. Carol, good morning to you. Good morning, or get better to Ben. Nancy Minor, good morning to you. Good seeing you yesterday. Good comments. Good comments. Joyce Bruce, good morning to you. Speaking of yesterday, speaking of announcements, we had the Faith's Craft Fair yesterday, and a couple of thank yous. First of all, thanks to anyone from our church here at House of Prayer across our parish that went to go volunteer time this week or volunteer time yesterday. A lot of you did, and that was really awesome. I was actually at Faith this morning, and they were really appreciative, saying that if it wouldn't have been for the other churches coming around to support them, it wouldn't have happened, which is 1,000,000% true. So thanks to all the people that are here I can see in the room, those who were not here, but thanks to all who supported that thing by volunteering this week and spending time Wednesday or Thursday or Friday or big chunks yesterday. That was really appreciated. And second thanks to everyone who came yesterday to the actual thing. If you didn't come, you missed a really great event. I thought it was really fantastic. There's a ton of vendors there selling really cool things. There was great food there. Even though Ben wasn't there to be able to do music, we had music playing. It was just a really festive, upbeat, great atmosphere. Faith has been struggling for a number of years, and it was really cool, I think, for them. At 11 o'clock, the parking lot, even the grass between the parking lot to the road there was completely packed with cars. It was really, I think, just affirming to them to feel like, there's been rumors floating around the community in Center Township there, is Faith dead? Are they selling the property? Do they even have church anymore? And yesterday was a big step to say, yes, we are here. Sort of like the Lorax movie, or not the Lorax, what's the movie, the Disney movie with the people on the small little world? I can't think of the name right now. What's the one where they're all in the little world with the elephant? Horton Hears a Who. And the people are always shouting, we are here, we are here, we are here. And I felt like yesterday was Faith Day of saying, we are here, we are here, we are here. That was a long time to try to remember a Disney movie. At home, everyone would be yelling at me for not remembering it quicker. But yesterday was really an awesome day for the parish and for Faith Lutheran Church in particular, and for all of us that all those who helped out with it. Just thank you, thank you, thank you. The next sort of big parish event is coming up here on the 23rd, I think it is, of October, and that's going to be Van Kirk's. They do like a rummage sale sort of thing every year. They're rephrasing it a little bit and calling it like their fall bazaar. And so again, there'll be food at the fire hall down there in Stobo, and tons of stuff to go through and buy if you need more stuff at your house, which don't we all? No, we don't. Yeah, maybe no. But they're going to have a big event down there on the 23rd. This is Saturday of October. I don't think anyone needs to do any prep stuff. I think they have that under control, but if you would just go and support it, just go eat some food. There'll be raffles and baskets and stuff like that. Last year, Pastor Susan went broke on all the baskets and didn't win anything. It was a fun thing to tease her about. So I don't think she won anything yesterday either. She's like the most unlucky person ever. But support that the 23rd of October in the midday time of the day. I don't remember the hours offhand. All right, I don't think I have any other announcements, and so Joe and I are going to cobble together music a little bit here without Ben. And Joe has music for the prelude, and then I'll do the hymns on guitar. Again, doing my best to keep it going. The first hymn's more of a stretch, but the second one I got, if we do. So anyway, Joe, could you gather us vicariously with some music for the prelude? Please rise as you are able, even if you're at home. Blessed be the Holy Trinity, one God, the God of manna, the God of miracles, the God of mercy. Amen. Drawn to Christ and seeking God's abundance, let us confess our sin. God, our provider, help us. It is hard to believe there is enough to share. We question your ways when they differ from the ways of the world in which we live. We turn to our own understanding rather than trusting in you. We take offense at your teachings and your ways. Turn us again to you. Where else can we turn? Share with us the words of eternal life and feed us for life in the world. Amen. Beloved people of God, in Jesus, the manna from heaven, you are fed and nourished. By Jesus, the worker of miracles, there is always more than enough. And through Jesus, the bread of life, you are shown God's mercy. You are forgiven and loved into abundant life. Amen. Our first song is going to be, Will You Let Me Be Your Servant? And I'm not going to give a long introduction for it. I'm just going to play the chord a couple times, and then you'll just have to follow me. Such as it is when you get the B team. Will you let me be your servant? Let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I may have the grace to let you be my servant too. We are pilgrims on a journey. We are travelers on the road. Pray are here to help each other, not the mile and bear the load. I will hold the Christ light for you in the night time of your fear. I will hold my hand out to you, speak the peace you long to hear. I will weep when you are weeping. When you laugh, I'll laugh with you. I will share your joy and sorrow till we've seen this journey through. Will you let me be your servant? Let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I may have the grace to let you be my servant too. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the communion of the Holy Spirit be with you all. Let us pray. Generous God, your Son gave his life that we might come to peace with you. Give us a share of your Spirit, and in all we do, empower us to bear the name of Jesus Christ, our Savior and our Lord. Amen. You may be seated, and let's talk to our youngest among us. Although I was talking with another pastor this week about like children's sermons and doing children's sermons in this moment in time, and I said I like doing children's sermons because I feel like even though they can't be close, I still feel like I connect with the kids and the ones that are here and the ones that are home. And the other person said, yeah, and that's like the only sermon that really connects with everybody in the sanctuary. So, boys and girls, as you all know, we've been reading from our Spark Story Bible for the last, well over a year now, and we're just reading right through the thing. That way, we know many of the stories from the Bible. Today, we are on page 224. It's a short one. It looks like this, and the title is Escape to Egypt. It feels weird and very exposed. I don't have any background music, doesn't it? The ways we miss Ben not being here to give us background music for our children's moment here. And I've said this before, but if you want one of these Bibles, we'll give you one. We've got them here. If you need one for your kids or grandkids, or I've given one to an 80-year-old, we're glad to pass them out to those folks. Just let us know in the live stream, or text me, or get a hold of me somehow. We'd love to give these out. All right, here we are, Escape to Egypt. And if you recall, we've jumped into the New Testament part of the Bible, so we're talking about like the story of Jesus. And so there's been lots of angels coming and telling Jesus, Mom, what's going to happen, and his dad what's going to happen. Then last week was the wise men, and the angel told them what's going to happen. So they went to find Jesus. But then there's that bad dude, King Herod, that was in the way. He was very threatened by Jesus, but they went the other way, so he didn't know much about them. So here we are with the story. Jesus has been born. His mom and dad are taking care of him. But Herod, King Herod, does not like that Jesus is the possible king, and he's threatened by that. So here we go with the story for today. Escape from Egypt. And Jesus' mom and dad's name is Joseph and Mary, in case you forgot. Joseph's eyes popped open in the middle of the night. A shiny angel brought him God's message in a dream. Jesus is in danger. King Herod doesn't like the baby king. He doesn't want anybody to be a king except for himself. You must take Jesus and Mary to hide in Egypt. Ready, set, go. Joseph, Mary, and Jesus were off to Egypt. And God was with them, and God kept them safe. Later, Joseph had another dream. Go back to Israel, the sparkly angel said. It's safe now. Ready, set, go. The family rushed back to Israel, and God was with them. God kept them safe. Then Joseph had a third dream. Move to Nazareth, the bright angel said. Ready, set, go. Joseph, Mary, and Jesus hurried to Nazareth. Jesus' family made a home there. God was with them. God always kept them safe. It's a short story this week. You can see the picture here. I'm guessing this is Joseph because his brain looks like it's going to explode. Can you imagine being told to move 3 times in like really short order? Maybe some of you have done that. I have not, but it would make my brain want to explode. And then over here, it just looks like they're traveling. Mary looks sort of, I don't know, maybe concerned. It's hard to tell on her face. Baby Jesus just looks happy. He doesn't get it. And Joseph is like looking back like, here we go again. We have to move again. The question here at the end, where the observation says, if you were having dreams like Joseph, what would you do? What if you were Mary? If you were Mary and Joseph and you were having dreams to go do crazy things, would you do them? I see some head shaking. Yes, you would just do it. Then I see another one shaking. No, there's some conflict here among siblings about what we do. If it was moving like that, I don't know that I want to do that. If it was big things, I think I might be kind of resistant. I think I'd be more with Noah. Like that's some serious business. What if God told you got to move? And this wasn't close by. Like Israel and Egypt is a long way away. I didn't look up on a map ahead of time, but I'm going to guess like 500 miles or so. I mean, this is a smaller distance, but can you imagine God telling you, hey, yo, move to Philadelphia, and not in your car because you don't have a car. Cars don't exist yet. No trains, no planes. You got to walk. Now, kids, you ready to walk the whole way to Philadelphia? With your stuff? I mean, you're not just moving for a weekend trip here. You're moving. So you got to take all your stuff with you. Sounds awesome, doesn't it? And then you get there for a while, and God's like, hey, guess what? Back to Pittsburgh. Cool, right? And then once you're in Pittsburgh for a while, God's like, no, I was wrong. It's Nazareth, actually. So, like, go up to Indiana County, where I grew up. It's like an hour and a half driving, but walking a little bit farther. Sound cool? You guys, you still on board, Noah? You're walking all those distances? Dude, you're a rock star. Man, the things God asks us to do sometimes are tough. I mean, I don't think I don't know, maybe God's never showed up to me in a dream like an angel and said, hey, you got to move. Well, actually, I feel like that's sort of to be a pastor, I've had to move different places. So maybe sometimes God does call us to move places. Maybe not right now, but like as we get older, God will call us to go places, to be different places. And all along the way, what does God do for Mary and Joseph all along the way? Do you remember? You guys weren't paying attention. You were thinking about walking to Philadelphia. The two things it says every time they move is that God is with them and God keeps them safe. Wherever God calls you in life, whether it's to school tomorrow or wherever else you wind up going, to sports or to other fun things you do, family, people's houses, wherever God calls you, God is with you. And the second thing it says is God keeps us safe. And God is with you, keeping you safe always. Amen.
Our first reading today is from Numbers. The rabble among them had a strong craving, and the Israelites also wept again and said, if only we had meat to eat. We remember the fish we used to eat in Egypt for nothing, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. But now our strength is dried up, and there is nothing at all but this manna to look at. Moses heard the people weeping throughout the families, all at the entrances of their tents. Then the Lord became very angry, and Moses was displeased. So Moses said to the Lord, why have you treated your servant so badly? Why have I not found favor in your sight that you lay down the burden of all the people on me? Did I conceive all these people? Did I give birth to them? That you should say to me, carry them in your bosom, and nurse carries a suckling child to the land that you promised on oath to their ancestors. Where am I to get meat to give to all these people? For they come weeping to me and say, give us meat to eat. I am not able to carry all this people alone, for they are too heavy for me. If this is the way you are going to treat me, put me to death at once. If I have found favor in your sight, and do not let me see my misery. So the Lord said to Moses, gather for me 70 of the elders of Israel, whom you know to be the elders of the people and officers over them. Bring them to the tent of meeting and have them take their place there with you. So Moses went out and told the people the words of the Lord. And he gathered 70 elders of the people and placed them all around the tent. Then the Lord came down in the cloud and spoke to him, and took some of the Spirit that was on him and put it on the 70 elders. And when the Spirit rested upon them, they prophesied, but they did not do so again. 2 men remained in camp, one named Eldad and the other named Medad. And the Spirit rested on them, and they were among those registered, but they had not gone out to the tent. And so they prophesied in the camp. And a young man ran and told Moses, Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp. And Joshua, son of Nun, the assistant of Moses, one of the chosen men, said, my lord, Moses, stop them. But Moses said to him, are you jealous for my sake? Would that all the Lord's people were prophets, and that the Lord would put his Spirit on them? The word of the Lord. Our psalm today is from Psalm 19, verses 7 through 14. The teaching of the Lord is perfect and revives the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure and gives wisdom to the simple. The statutes of the Lord are just and rejoice the heart. The commandment of the Lord is clear and gives light to the eyes. The fear of the Lord is clean and endures forever. The judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. More to be desired are they than gold, more than much fine gold, sweeter far than honey in the comb. By them also is your servant enlightened, and in keeping them there is great reward. Who can detect one's own offenses? Cleanse me from my secret faults. Above all, keep your servant from presumptuous sins. Let them not get dominion over me. Then shall I be whole and sound and innocent of a great offense. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Our second reading is from James chapter 5, verses 13 through 20. Are any of you suffering? They should pray. Are any cheerful? They should sing songs of praise. Are any among you sick? They should call for the elders of the church and have them pray over them, anointing them with oil in the name of the Lord. The prayer of faith will save the sick, and the Lord will raise up, and anyone who has committed sins will be forgiven. Therefore, confess your sins to one another and pray for one another so that you may be healed. The prayer of the righteous is powerful and effective. Elijah was a human being like us, and he prayed fervently that it might not rain. And for 3 years and 6 months, it did not rain on the earth. Then he prayed again, and the heaven gave rain, and the earth yielded its harvest. My brothers and sisters, if anyone among you wanders from the truth and is brought back by another, you should know that whoever brings back a sinner from wandering will save the sinner's soul from death and will cover a multitude of sins. The word of the Lord. As you're able, please rise for our gospel. Our gospel today is from Mark chapter 9, verses 38 through 50. John said to Jesus, "Teacher, we saw someone casting out demons in your name, and we tried to stop him because he was not following us." But Jesus said, "Do not stop him, for no one who does a deed of my power in my name will be able soon afterward to speak evil of me. Whoever is not against us is for us. For truly I tell you, whoever gives you a cup of water to drink because you bear the name of Christ will by no means lose the reward. If any of you put a stumbling block before one of these little ones who believe in me, it would be better for you if a great millstone were hung around your neck and you were thrown into the sea. If your hands cause you to stumble, cut it off. It is better for you to enter life maimed than to have 2 hands and to go to hell, to the unquenchable fire. And if your foot causes you to stumble, cut it off. It is better for you to enter life lame than to have 2 feet and to be thrown into hell. And if your eye causes you to stumble, tear it out. It is better for you to enter the kingdom of God with 1 eye than to have 2 eyes and be thrown into hell, where their worm never dies and the fire is never quenched. For everyone will be satisfied with fire. Salt is good, but if salt has lost its saltiness, how can you season it? Have salt in yourselves and be at peace with one another." The gospel of the Lord. Please be seated.
Let's talk about cutting off our hands. No, we're not going to cut off our hands. We're not going to be cutting off anything in the sermon here. Let us pray. The words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable to you, O Lord, our rock and our redeemer. Amen. Rather than cutting things off, let's talk about the good old days. Remember the good old days? Remember the good old days? Of course, when I say that, we're all thinking about way different things, right? I actually love how when I say that, I see a Noah out there again. It's like, I remember the good old days. These are the good old days, right? There were no old days. What a great observation for kids. I feel like I need to rethink my whole sermon now. But like so young people, when old people say the good old days, they all mean something radically different. Like when I think of the good old days, they're not the same good old days for Barb there in the first row. And Barb's good old days are not the same for Mike's good old days over here, or Greg's good old days, or Patty. Everyone has, even Greg and Patty probably have different good old days, right? There may be some among us that don't have the good old days, after all, that are adults, actually. I got to live out a little of my good old days this week. On Wednesday, this wasn't the good part, but Pastor Susan and I, we drove up to Brookville to be with Pastor Jocelyn and her family as the funeral for Pastor Jocelyn's dad happened on Wednesday. And I think a lot of you know, but I grew up out that direction. Not in Brookville, but I grew up about 45 minutes south of there in Indiana County, rural Indiana County. And so after the funeral for Pastor Jocelyn's dad, I went down to Indiana County because I had lunch with my dad. It seemed like an appropriate moment to like hold special the parents that are still with us. And so, but that whole area for Brookville down is kind of nostalgic for me. When I pulled into Brookville, I immediately remembered all the driving through Brookville up to Clarion, where my one aunt lived, and the Cook's Forest trips. And then as I got down into downtown Brookville and down the main street, I recalled back in my high school days, marching in marching band in high school, and we were regular participants in the Brookville Parade every year, where I hope Pastor Jocelyn is watching this. Marion Center always won because we won every parade we ever marched in against places like Brookville. I actually think if Pastor Jocelyn is a big music person, as you know, she probably marched perhaps in Brookville's band at the same time I did, so we might have marched in high school bands together at the same time, in the same parade. That kind of I'm not sure about that. We haven't coordinated, but yeah, so I was just thinking about all those memories of Brookville. And then as I drove farther south, I went through Punxsutawney, and I remembered I was born there. I remembered those days. I don't remember that part, but I was born in Punxsutawney. The hospital there, right along the road. But I remembered like more somber thoughts, like my grandfather. He was in the hospital there a lot. I remember he actually died in the hospital there. And the funeral home right below that was where my grandmother's funeral was. But I remember all the family times we had gathered around those places. My grandparents lived near Punxsutawney, and so we went there often and had pizza at Pizza Hut, and just lots of good times. And then I continued working my way south past Marion Center, past the old high school there, and lots of really good times and how much fun I had playing baseball on the baseball field right there. Then went down to Indiana, where there was my favorite pizza place ever, Bob's Pizza. It's actually terrible, I'm sure, for outsiders, but if you grew up on it, it's the good old pizza, right? The good old days of the pizza. That's where Dad and I had some lunch out in the truck together. I drove past the old workplace at McDonald's and just remembered all those good times. It was just my brother, my mom and dad, and things were so much simpler. It was better back then, right? Back in those days? Yeah, we remember the good old days. And these days stink, right? These days are terrible. They're the worst. Nothing is right about right now. It's just awful. Now, having kids that's not that part, but like this whole COVID stuff is terrible. You're all wearing masks. That stinks. I can see you rolling your eyes at me, but I can't see the nasty faces you're making at me. People are fighting now all the time. We're fighting about everything. We're fighting about, just like I need to tell you what we're fighting about. We're fighting about all sorts of crazy things. Like this day and the age stinks. Let's go back to the good old days when everything was perfect. When a cheeseburger came up on the screen and I just made a cheeseburger. Back in the good old days when I was in high school and marching band and everything was awesome. We'll come back to that. We can relate to these Israelites in the first story. I know we often don't read from the book of Numbers. It's not a hotspot book that you guys probably don't go home and crack open Numbers for a good read tonight, right? But these poor Israelites in the book of Numbers, by the time we get to this place. And so these are our ancestors, our Jewish ancestors. And they go way back to Abraham and Jacob and Joseph. But farther up, they all get caught in slavery. And so they're like, we remember back when we were in Egypt. In Egypt, they were slaves, like legit slaves, like making bricks 24/7 out of mud and straw. And they were getting beat by their Egyptian masters. And it was like the worst existence ever. No Sunday breaks, no breaks, period. They ate junk that the Egyptians gave them. Life was miserable. And then God frees them and takes them out of Egypt, gives them the law at Mount Sinai, these rules and how they should live and how they make God happy and how they can be happy. And then God sends them off to travel to this new land that God's going to give them. Sounds amazing, right? But they're out in this in-between area between having experienced God at the mountain and then on their way to the promised land, and these people are complaining because they remember the good old days. Just like us, we remember the good old days with rose-colored glasses. Oh, back in high school, it was so good. I just made cheeseburgers when they popped up on the screen, and everything was fantastic at high school. Not really. I was a dork. I got teased a lot. I was awkward and socially uncomfortable. And I felt really weird inside all the time, right? It actually wasn't that glamorous. I was kind of a bad kid. My dad said yesterday at the fair, he's like, if we thought if you got to 18 you were still alive, we'd done a good job as parents. Those were the good old days. These Israelites, how stupid are they? They're like, this is fantastic. If only we had meat to eat. I can relate to that one. I always want meat to eat. We remember back in the good old days in Egypt, the fish we used to eat in Egypt for nothing. For nothing? The cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. Now our strength is all dried up. And there's nothing at all but this manna to look at. Like, how ridiculous are these people? They were getting beaten day by day in the sweltering heat in the desert making bricks. And people were being kidnapped from their families and taken to the royal palace and all sorts of awful stuff. And they think that was the good old days they want to go back to. Not that they're in freedom out here, caring for each other, God providing them bread every day on the ground, but they want to go back to slavery. Right? It's ludicrous. And Moses, he's just as bad as them. He's like their leader, right? Because leaders do that. This is very comparable to our day and time too. Moses is like, hey, God, I've been shouldering all this by myself. Not really. But I've been doing all this by myself. He's like, where am I to get meat to give all these people? They come weeping to me and say, give us meat. I'm not able to carry all these people alone. Come on, God, where are you? They're too heavy for me. If this is the way that you're going to treat me, put me to death. This is funny stuff, right? I mean, if you don't think it's funny, maybe it hits really too close to home, because this is the kind of stuff we do too, right? Oh, this is so miserable. I don't even want to live like this anymore. These masks are too much of a burden. Living life like this in this isolation is just too much. I hate all this. I hate the other people in my life. I hate, right, the things we get frustrated about, it's not even about like masks or anything like that. It's just about the tensions of the world we live in, and we complain a lot. And we want to go back to the day that was before this, whether it was better or not. So what do we make of this story, and how does it speak to the world we live in now? Other than we feel a lot like these Israelites that like to complain a lot. Speaking of complaining, I think it's okay to complain sometimes. I think that complaining can be faithful. People complain all through the scriptures. I remember when I was struggling a lot in life, and a therapist told me, maybe you should journal and write the things that you're frustrated about. And I was really angry at God for some stuff. Like, just write in your journal, write Dear Jesus, and then talk to Jesus about how you feel. I'm like, Dear Jesus, you're terrible and I hate you. And I'd write all the grievances I had against Jesus. I think there's some faithfulness in that. The people rail out here, they're complaining. And then Moses complains, and there's something therapeutic and healthy about complaining. But then what, right? Maybe looking to God is a good next thing. How does God respond in this story? Did you notice when Chris read? I mean, it was probably like, oh, a book from Numbers. I'm not paying attention to this. So in the story, God, when the people complain, it actually says God gets angry. Now, I don't think God is just necessarily angry at them for complaining. Complaining is natural, again, and I think healthy. But it's really it's not their complaining, it's their sense of reality. For example, when we start complaining about how the good old days were the good days and these ones are terrible, we're really missing out on reality, right? Just like these Israelites who want to go back to the good old days when they were in slavery, they're not really putting a true sense for what it was like before out there. They probably also don't have a fair sense for what things are like right now. Because here's the God action that they're completely missing out on. The God has pulled them out of slavery. God has joined with them by giving them the 10 commandments, the next 613 commandments. The God has loved them that much, and now in their wandering and movement, God continues to give to them. Like, what are they eating now? Manna. Like, every day they wake up, and God throws this abundance of flowery stuff on the ground. Like, we wonder where God is because we can't see. They can literally see God's work every morning when they wake up. And what do? They complain about it. Now, before we throw them under the bus, we'd probably do the same thing if we had manna every single day to eat, right? Who wants to eat rice every single day? You guys are crazy. You guys are really messing up the sermon when you read. So God has always been generous, and here's the key. Here's the thing for us right now in the world. Here's the thing for these Israelites and the thing for us. God has always been generous to them. They can't see it. They complain. They're a pain in the butt. We can't see it. We complain. We're a pain in the butt. God gets frustrated, says, you guys, can't you see this? But then, unlike us, God does not get mad, take God's ball, and go home. God's like, I'm going to bring the Spirit upon you. Here are your elders. Try to help them see this. and then God gives them meat. God continues to love with them. Like the story from the kids' Bible there, God continues to be with them, and God continues to love them, care for them, and keep them safe. They want meat, God gives them quail the next day. This is the struggle for us, I think, right now. It's easy to complain. It's easy to be frustrated and angry and see a godless, voidless world around us. But the reality is, God is everywhere in this world, soaked all through it. Like that there is manna everywhere when we wake up in the morning, and we just don't see it. Or maybe we've just gotten tired of it and we're looking for something new. And then for the rest of today and the rest of the week and the rest of the month and the rest of the year, God will continue to give us new blessings. We can be seduced by our own frustrations and angers and not even see those things, or we can have eyes to see them. We can see the beauty and the good that God is doing, even when things are a struggle. And this is a tension. I don't mean to say it's all puppy dogs and rainbows moving forward. Y'all, when you leave the space, it's going to be amazing out there. You're going to love it. I mean, that's not going to be the case either. And so we'll probably continue to gripe a little bit. We'll probably continue to complain and be angry. And there are really good reasons to be frustrated and angry in the world right now. And God receives those. And God continues to love us and bless us. And bad things will happen, and we'll get frustrated and complain, and God will continue to love us. It's like a cycle, or a tension, or a mix of everything. And so my gift for you, my hope for you this week is that you go out into the world. There is going to be things to complain about. I mean, probably won't even take you to the end of church to complain about. But then God's also loving and graceful, and is going to surprise you with good gifts also when you leave this space. May you have eyes to see those also. Amen. I invite you to join me and stand if you are able as we say together the ancient words of the Creed. I believe in God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth. I believe in Jesus Christ, God's only Son, our Lord, who was conceived by the Holy Spirit, born of the Virgin Mary, suffered under Pontius Pilate, was crucified, died, and was buried. He descended to the dead. On the third day he rose again. He ascended into heaven. He is seated at the right hand of the Father, and he will come to judge the living and the dead. I believe in the Holy Spirit, the Holy Catholic Church, the communion of saints, the forgiveness of sins, the resurrection of the body, and the life everlasting. Amen.
In a position most comfortable for you, please be seated or kneel. Our response today is hear our prayer. Made children and heirs of God's promise, we pray for the church, the world, and all in need. We pray for the church and its ministry. Bless the newly baptized and encourage them in their journey of faith. Sustain all members of the body of Christ in lives of prayer, service, and worship. Lord, in your mercy. We pray for natural wonders of your creation. Restore damaged forests, waterways, and natural habitats, and lead us to be good stewards of what you have provided. Lord, in your mercy. We pray for those in authority. Give them wise minds and compassionate hearts. Strengthen in them a desire to protect the vulnerable and care for those underserved. Lord, in your mercy. We pray for those who are struggling with cancer, dementia, or any other disease. Provide them with peace and resilience for the days ahead. Sustain caregivers with energy and patience. Lord, in your mercy. We pray for the worship leaders of this congregation, musicians, readers, acolytes, and ushers. Bless us through their ministry and grant them the passion to continue in their service. Lord, in your mercy.
For the unique and the prayers of this community on this day. We lift up Pastor Jocelyn's family, her mom Joyce, and the loss of her dad this week. We pray for Rhoda Boobin, who had surgery, a couple stints put in earlier this week. We pray for recovery for her and for that in her household to go smoothly and well in the weeks ahead. We pray for the Beechek family, for Mike's mom, Anna, who's diminishing in health and nearing end. Pray for grace for her. We pray for their family and the loss of Mia's mom, Sean's wife, who passed away very shockingly and surprisingly last night. Pray for their whole family as the loss is heavy there. Ginny asks for prayers for Anna, for Austin, Nate, and all dealing with medical issues. Diane prays for Amy, Ginger, Michelle. Susie prays for Sissy Saban, and Joyce prays prayers for Ben as he is sick. Quayshawn prays prayers for Rhonda and he, for prayers of peace and joy. We give space, just a short space, for allow any other prayers that we want to lift up either aloud or silently in our space here this morning. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer.
We give thanks for all your saints, those we have loved and known, and those from every time and place. Continue to guide us by their example and reassure us of your promised salvation. Lord, in your mercy. Receive these prayers, O God, and those in our hearts known only to you. Through Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
Please rise as you are able. The Lord be with you. On the night in which he was betrayed, our Lord Jesus took bread. He gave thanks, broke it, gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take and eat. This is my body given for you. When you gather, do this and remember me." Again, after supper, he took the cup. He gave thanks and gave it for all to drink, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood, shed for you and for all people, for the forgiveness of sin. When you gather, do this and remember me." For as often as we hear those words, we join together in prayer, echoing the ancient prayer that Jesus taught his disciples, the Lord's Prayer. Let us pray slowly. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. You may be seated. We have not had these for a couple weeks, but they are back now. I've got a bunch of them here from Pastor Susan. Individual, already pre-filled communion cups. And these are for you to take home if you have anyone in your life that isn't able to come to church for whatever reason. You're welcome to take these home and share them with them. They have already in them a prepackaged wafer on one side, on the other side, wine. And so now that it's been here on the table as part of our community of worship, all of you here, me here, the words that we said together of institution, they are blessed and they're ready for you, if you'd like to take to people who may be family in nursing homes or just family that aren't comfortable coming to church, or friends, or whomever you think needs some Jesus in their life. You're most welcome to take this with you. They'll be right on the table there. As you come through to get your communion for today, you can pick one or two or however many you'd like up and take it to people in your life. We've got a bunch here, so if you're going to use them, you're more than welcome to take them. The body and blood of our Lord Jesus Christ to strengthen us and keep us in his grace. Amen. We will sing Tell the Story as our final song. I'll give the refrain as an introduction. I love to tell the story of People of God, hear these words of blessing for you. The blessing of God, who provides for us, who feeds us and journeys with us, be upon us now and forever. Amen. Go in peace. You are the body of Christ. It is a joy to be with you on yet another Sunday morning. The peace of the Lord be with you all. Let us go sharing that peace with everyone in our paths.